brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement Studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking hosts, the good old boys. Suds. It's time for more Suds.
Welcome to this Suds episode where everything good in life is worth discussing. I am your feeble host, good old gal Julieanna, and with me today at the table is good old boy Dave.
Hey, everybody.
Good old Reverend Mark.
Good afternoon to everyone.
And good old boy Kendall.
How you doing today?
This show is sponsored by Peabody's Wine and Beer Merchants in Boone, North Carolina, featuring the largest and most eclectic selection of beer and wine in the Southeast. If you can't get to the mountains, let them ship it right to your doorstep. Contact them at www.peabodyswineandbeer.com. Our Suds segment is all about beer, and, of course, more beer. Today's show is a Ballast Point Brewery Takeover episode. We will be talking about beer from one brewery today, and that is Ballast Point. The beers that we are going to discuss today are Sculpin, Grapefruit Sculpin, Habanero Sculpin, Indra Kuindra, Victory at Sea, and Sea Monster. So, Ballast Point has a really cool background story, and good old boy Kendall, why don't you give us some information about them?
Sure thing. After developing a taste for beer in college, founder Jack White decided to try make something more interesting than he could get at a keg party. So, along with his college roommate, Pete Arrrg, he began home brewing in their apartment at UCLA, and they realized it wasn't easy to get what they needed. The supplies and ingredients were hard to find. They didn't have anybody to talk to about brewing either. So in '92, Jack opened Homebrew Mart, which he filled with supplies, ingredients, and conversation that every brewer needs to make better beer at home. His plan was to take his hobby pro and start a brewery one day. About the same time, Pete went to UC Davis to get his master's brewer certificate, and that's when they found collaborator Yusuf Cherney. He was also a home brewer with a passion for home brewing and a lot of awards to boot. Yusuf became Homebrew Mart's first employee and was part of the team to open a backroom brewery. In '96, Ballast Point Brewing was born. From day one, Ballast Point's philosophy has always been doing what we love and making what we love to drink. So naturally, they named the beers out of something they loved, which is fishing. And many of the beers have named after fish or fishing terms, and the labels have fish on them. Pete left.
There you go.
Pete left to actually become a science teacher. That's great. Young minds need that knowledge. But in 2004, Ballast Point had outgrown, and they went into a larger production brewery. Today, Homebrew Mart is still open in its original location, helping homebrewers to make better beer, and the tasting room is still there. They've added a third brewery in San Diego's Little Italy neighborhood, which is a lab for research and development. By the end of 2013, Ballast Point completely maximized its output at that brewery and sought another space. So in mid-2014, they constructed a 107,000 square foot brewery in Miramar. There's lots of great breweries up there in the Miramar area of San Diego, and that gave them room to grow. They had two large copper kettles that were discovered in a brewery in Lohr, Germany, as a showpiece of the new brewery headquarters. They have a state-of-the-art lab, tasting bar, and restaurant. And so with this fourth location, they have room to grow. And Ballast Point's plan for the future is simple. Keep doing more of what they love.
Thanks, Kendall. That's a really great story. I know all of us here at the table are homebrewers, and Ballast Point continues to support the hobby that we all love so much. They even have a complete line of beers called the Homework Series. Each beer comes with a complete recipe on the label. Pretty cool, huh?
Very cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
I only have one question. So, how did Jack White have the time to start a brewery and start a band
And a record company.
And moved to
All in one-
Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Somehow I'm thinking maybe that's not the same guy.
Oh. Huh. Weird.
There can be more than one Jack White. Maybe. Anyways. All right, so let's get to some beer. So, good old boy Dave will get the honor of going over our Suds ratings today. In honor of today's brewery and their love for the sea, they'll do it in the voice of a pirate.
Arrrg, ye landlubbers, we'll be tasting and discussing these beers and rating them with these Suds ratings, plus our signature belching sounds. You get plenty of those on a pirate ship.
Arrrg.
Here are those ratings now. Number 1, that sucks. Give me anything but a grog. Number 2, be that a belch. Number 3, what a relief. That was a good one. Number 4, a body should really not make that sound. And being a pirate, I don't know the next number because I didn't learn to count that high. But the last one is, listen to that hang time. Give me another.
Why, thank you, Pirate Dave.
Well done.
Very
yes.
well done, sir. Very well done.
Kind of hurt my throat. That's why pirates are angry all the time. They have a sore throat for talking that way.
Well, anyways, speaking of which, Pirate Dave, why don't you start the conversation and tell us what your top 3 beers are?
Sure. So I won't go in any particular order necessarily because I'm not that organized or prepared. But the first one I'd like to talk about is the Indra Kuindra?
Canindra.
Indra Kuindra. Sounds cool.
Okay, so Ballast Point, Indra Kuindra. It is brewed with Madras curry, cayenne pepper, cumin, toasted coconut, and kaffir lime leaf. It is a 9% ABV stout brewed in collaboration with homebrewer Alex Tweet. It was brewed for Holiday Wine Cellar's 46th anniversary homebrewers competition. First batch was 9%, and all others have been at 7%.
So this beer is big in every way. The aroma is very strong. There's a lot of spice going on, and it smells like the world market, you know. But I'm not a huge fan of it necessarily, but it was the most interesting beer that we had today to me, just because of it had so much going on. There's like curry and pepper and just all kinds of crap. They just whatever they could find.
That's a great
to throw in there, you know.
It's a good brewing term.
But it is very. It's very smooth for a beer that's as high alcohol as it is. And maybe all the spices hide that a little bit. I don't know. But I gave this beer a 3.
3. Oh, what a relief. And your next pick?
Oh, that's right. I have to
Pirate
pick another
Dave?
one. So my next one is the Habanero Sculpin.
Ballast Point's Habanero Sculpin. It is a great example of what got us into brewing in the first place. After years of experimenting, we knew hopping an ale at 5 separate stages would produce something special. The result ended up being this gold medal winning IPA, which inspired use of hops, creates hints of apricot, peach, mango, and lemon flavors, but still packs a bit of a sting, just like a sculpin fish.
So I only really wrote one word, which was hot.
Yeah.
Very.
Ouch.
And actually, I was going to put that it's hot and then the heat fades pretty fast, but it doesn't.
No.
No.
Because I thought it did, but then I was like, wait.
You still
it's
feel
still
it.
there. Yeah, and it's not horrible. You know, I think this would be like a good winter beer maybe or something. Kind of, if you can't be hot outside or warm on the outside, at least you can be warm on the inside. But it's one of those beers I don't think you could drink a lot of, or you would not want to drink very often. At least I wouldn't. But it actually, as far as pepper beers go, it's actually fairly balanced, and it doesn't just blow you up. So I gave this beer a 3 as well. 3.
Really. And your final pick, Pirate Dave.
Final pick, Victory at Sea.
Yeah. Victory at Sea by Ballast Point. It is 2 of the world's oldest beverages join forces to conquer your palate. Victory at Sea embodies the art of masterful brewing by infusing a velvety imperial porter with pure vanilla flavor and specially selected hand-roasted coffee. The addition of cold brewed coffee to the beer lends a subtle roasted flavor to this robust imperial porter, blending perfectly with rich vanilla and caramel undertones. By uniting 2 San Diego brewing traditions, Cafe Calabria, freshly brewed coffee, and Ballast Point beer, we have successfully created an artisanal masterpiece.
This is what I think may be the best beer in the flight. It's really big, lots of warmth. The coffee and vanilla roast, the vanilla and coffee roast kind of round each other out as far as the flavors go. It's got a great mouthfeel, and it's really enjoyable to drink. Not necessarily a summertime beer, but it is kind of a good change up after the habanero. I actually gave this one a 4.
4. A body should really not make that sound. Well, thanks, good old Pirate Dave.
Arrrg.
And next will be good old Pirate Reverend Mark.
Hello, kiddies. Well, I'm going to be kind of pedestrian in my evaluation of these beers today.
Ooh.
Meaning that I was kind of drawn to, right off the bat, just the Ballast Point Sculpin IPA as a benchmark, through which I evaluated most of the others, at least 3 of the others. Kendall and I were talking as we were sampling this fine flight, and it seemed to me that the canned product, as I am doing parallel tastings with different, especially the hoppy beers that are coming out, really commended this one as being extremely fresh. The malt base was there, but not too heavy.
Right.
And I felt as though the just the array of American hops came out just as a very flavorful bouquet. So I'm going to really list this one as my. I'm going to say that it was my favorite of all in the flight that we've sampled. But I'd like to at least start out by lifting this one up and giving it an applause. And I will. I will at least say I'll go with this one and give it a 4.
A 4. A body should really not make that sound.
Sorry, I thought that was the applause button. I wasn't laughing at you.
Well, and as a brief note, the Sculpin IPA is a testament to our humble beginnings as homebrew mart. Founded in 92, the mart continues to be a catalyst for San Diego brewing scene, setting the trend for handcrafted ales. Inspired by our customers, employees, and brewers, the Sculpin IPA is bright with aromas of apricot, peach, mango, and lemon. Its lighter body also brings out the crispness of the hops. This delicious Ballast Point Ale took a bronze medal at the 2007 Great American Beer Festival in the Pro-Am category. The Sculpin fish has poisonous spikes on its fins that can give it a strong sting. Ironically, the meat from a sculpin is considered some of the most tasty. Something that has a sting but tastes good. Sounds like a Ballast Point India Pale Ale. I totally agree. Okay, good old Reverend Pirate Mark.
Yes.
Second up.
Well, I have to say that before I get on to the next one, that another thing that drew me to this, just the history of it, of the Sculpin IPA, is that they won in the Pro-Am. And I've been fortunate enough to compete in the Pro-Am, but I wasn't also ran. Never took anything, but it's great to be there nonetheless. So anyway, that helped me to see that, yeah, you can start out just as an enthusiastic, kind of hobby crafter, and actually do something commercially if you keep at it. The next one that I would like to really get back to when I talk about being, get down to the basics. For me, at least, I was drawn to the Sea Monster. The Imperial Stout came through as very layered, very roasty, a dark, bittersweet chocolate aspect to it with kind of an oatmeal viscosity. Of all the dark samplings, again, comparing it to Victory at Sea and Indra, I like this one because I felt it was the least contrived, and that it could really stand alone as just a sipping beer and not necessarily a pairing beer. So this one I will give a 4.2 as well.
4. A body should really not make that sound. And of note, it is the Sea Monster Imperial Stout is a new version of an old favorite. This hearty stout is black as the abyss and clocks in at a whopping 10% ABV. A real monster, if you will. The flavors of roasted coffee and bittersweet chocolate are complemented by a velvety smoothness. A velvety smoothness from the addition of unmalted barley and oats. Columbus and Amarillo hops help to balance out the huge malt flavor of this flavor bomb. Be careful, the alcohol is well hidden and will sneak up on you if you don't watch out. Like most scary monsters, it can be a little intimidating, but have no fear. It'll soothe the soul. Okay, good old Reverend Pirate Mark, what's your last pick?
Okay, my last pick is one that sort of is kind of compared to in a parallel tasting with the very first one that I mentioned, namely the Sculpin IPA. And that is, of course, the Grapefruit Sculpin IPA. And I mentioned this one last because I really think that drinking this in a parallel fashion with the Sculpin, it really helped me to see how they were able to amp up, the crisp hoppiness, just the aroma itself, but still the taste of citrus was not just coming from hop at this point. You could really kind of get that grapefruit oil, the acidity that comes from the orange or the grapefruit zest, rather. So for me, at least, I feel as though this is a really great kind of a fruit-forward beer, not being fruit in the sense that we typically think about it, but that they really are doing something right. This is about maybe the 6th one that I've tried, and it's just very crisp, clean, and one that I'm trying to replicate myself as a home brewer. So this one I mentioned last, but certainly not least, and I will give it a 5.
Whoa!
Ooh, a 5. Listen to that hang time. Give me another.
Nice.
I think that sums it up, huh? Well, and speaking and just to go over it, the Grapefruit Sculpin is the latest take on their signature IPA. Some may say there are a few ways to improve Sculpin's unique flavor, but the tart freshness of grapefruit perfectly complements their IPA's citrusy hop character. Grapefruit's a winter fruit, but this easy drinking ale tastes like summer, and it's 7%, by the way. So,
nice.
We are going to take a brief break, and then we'll come back with good old Pirate Kendall and his top picks.
Arrrg.
Welcome back, mateys. Now, next up for discussion is good old Pirate Kendall.
Arrrg. How you mateys?
Arrrg.
In my top 3 of these, I want to give an honorable mention to the base of 2 of them, which is just the Sculpin. Just a fantastic beer.
Wait, let me stop you real quick. Are you going to do a Julieanna?
I am.
And you're going to have 4 top 3s?
No, I've got 3.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to check.
With an honorable mention.
I love the Sculpin. In fact, last weekend at Asheville, some of us were privileged to be at Funk Asheville, which we had great sour, great funky beers. And then we proceeded to Thirsty Monk, the basement, which is all Belgian beers. And, you know, I hate to say it, but I'd kind of had a little too much funk and sour by that point.
Sure.
I needed something hoppy, so I ordered a can of Sculpin. Just hit the spot. But I love the Sculpin, but I love the two beers that we have that are versions of that.
Yeah.
So my first one is the Habanero Sculpin.
Okay.
Which at first, you know, every time I have a pepper beer, it's like, you know, what kind of novelty is this? I'm not sure if they're just throwing peppers in to throw peppers in, you know, hot for hot's sake. But it's a really well done pepper beer.
Yeah.
And the thing I like about it is I was in San Diego last summer, and, you know, this is a San Diego beer, and the thing that's there is so much good beer and so much good Mexican food. And so from this beer, I'm picking up, you know, when I just smell it, you smell the pepper, you smell the citrus, and it makes me think of that fresh Mexican food that's not like anything else in this country. It's a great Mexican food scene.
Do you know? So, like when I tasted that Habanero Sculpin, you know how like in some pepper beers you get sort of the green, kind of like vegetable taste. It doesn't really have that. You get
not at all.
You get pepper flavor, but you don't get that green taste.
That was definitely in my tasting notes too.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't know how they did that, but
I don't know, but I think it's delicious, and I don't like pepper beers for the most part, but I enjoyed this, and you're right, it sneaks up on you. You know it's a pepper beer when you first taste it, and then you think, oh, that fades, that's nice, and then all of a sudden you get this little fire in the back of your throat that lingers for 15 minutes or so.
At least. So what's your rating?
Giving that a Suds rating of 4.
4. A body should really not make that sound. Very good. And your next pick?
My next pick is the Sea Monster. And I just love... It's scary because to me this is an easy drinking beer.
Yep.
And I wrote down that it's very dangerous. There's no heat I'm not picking up. Even as it warms, I'm not picking up any alcohol heat. And a 10% beer that's this easy drinking.
I know.
And so rich, so chocolatey. Lots of chocolatey goodness in this one. And like Reverend Mark said, you don't need to pair this with anything. This would be a great dessert beer.
Yeah.
So not just the chocolatey, and as you're drinking it though, that bitterness from the coffee starts coming in, and you taste that in the, you know, kind of in the back of your mouth, and it's sort of hanging there. And I just love that coffee roasty bitterness that's going on. But then I also get a little bit of just floral coming from the hops. I think what was it, Columbus and Amarillo that were used in it. So picking up some of the floral notes from those hops as I drink the beer. So just really enjoyed the Sea Monster, and give that a 4.
Cool. A body should really not make that sound. And the last
my
pick.
last beer, just when you think Sculpin can't get any better, they go and put grapefruit in it.
Oh my God.
I mean, to me, it's everything Sculpin is, but even more citrusy. And, you know, it's got those bright citrus aromas, flavors, but yet you still get the pine and the resin from those hops. But it's similar, and then just like turned up to 11. And it's, boy, I could drink a lot of this on a summer day.
Yep.
And that's one that, because I love it so much, I'm going to give it a 5.
Oh, wow. Listen to that hang time. Give me another.
All right.
And it goes on.
I think that was a Sea Monster.
I think it might have been. Okay, last up is me. And, you know, I hate to be redundant, but heck, I'm gonna be redundant here. And in no particular order, my first one was the Sculpin, the plain Sculpin. I mean, just because it's such a great standard. You know, and it's piney, it's it's a traditional IPA, but it's not too overwhelming. It's not one of those like West Coast, that will be in your face. And I mean, this is a really good, easy drinking beer that I think anybody can really enjoy. And this one I gave a 4. A body should really not make that sound. Which then brings me to number 2, which is the grapefruit variety of the Sculpin. Oh, this thing is like just beautiful. I mean, I know a lot of us here in the room have had it multiple times and, keep waxing poetic on it, but it is so, I mean, seriously, it's like drinking it. The grapefruit is just in my mouth and it's dripping down slowly, but it's such a clean grapefruit, if that makes any sense. I mean, you're still getting that, the piney resin base, but just this, it makes it a very bright beer, for lack of a better word, and it just really, really beautiful. And I need to learn to make this.
I feel like the grapefruit, in the original Sculpin, the resinous flavors of the hops and then the citrus flavors of the hops are sort of competing in your palate. But I think the addition of the grapefruit in the grapefruit Sculpin sort of pushes the citrus kind of over the top.
It does,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know they had to use Citra hops as well because that has the grapefruit, has the mango, and it just melds, in an amazing way.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a beautiful beer, and I gave this one a 4 as well. My body should really not make that sound. And lastly, I was torn. But I'm going to go with the Sea Monster as my number 3. I have to have a dark beer because, I'm a stout girl, and for those of you that put up with me over these episodes know that, like, stouts are one of the favorite things for me to brew, and I could drink them any time of year. And this Sea Monster is beautiful. Beautiful. I mean, it is a dessert. It's like a sipping beer. I mean, there's just so much going on, and it's so smooth and creamy. And, I'm going to reiterate, it will sneak up on you because there is no way that this really tastes like a 10%.
Not at all.
I mean, there's no alcohol burn on it at all. It's just,
Steady as
exactly. I mean, because it's got a great blend of, you're getting roastiness and you're getting chocolatiness, and I'm getting these subtle dark fruits in it, and to me it's just a great balance of all of those. And this puppy I gave a 5. Listen to that hang time. Give me another.
Very cool. So I have like some random trivia for you guys. So we were talking a lot about the Sculpin and the different varieties of Sculpin, and they've done a ton of them. So I want to see if you guys know which one of these they have not done. So there's a lemon, mango, coffee, ghost chili, or limerita.
I haven't heard about the limerita.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
That may have been from a Bud Light commercial. I don't know, but...
Yeah, I'm thinking,
Fine.
Nice try, though. Nice try.
Mark, you and Kendall both had talked about, the Sculpin in the can.
Yeah.
I really feel like that is a major factor in the freshness and everything, and I'm hoping to see more and more beers put into cans. It feels like it's a better way to transport and store beer. Yeah,
it's more environmentally, minded in terms of it's good for backpackers and and it but I think beyond the green aspect, which is cool, it just has to do with the fact that you're going to have absolutely no exposure to light. The oxidation factor is minimized even more, and I kind of came to terms with it. I think that the aversion to canned beer, back years ago when it was first starting to make its way into the craft market, was this aesthetics, but you start really looking, or tasting the difference and doing parallel tastings. And the first one that I did was with Sierra Nevada Torpedo, where I had the bottle and the can version. And that's what was the tipping point for me.
Sure, because from the time the beer leaves the brewery goes through the distributor and storage houses and into stores, and the temperature can go from ideal to 90 degrees. I mean, you never know what is going to happen to the environment that the beer's in. In the cans, they, like you said, there's no oxidization, there's no light, no getting light struck or anything like that. So yeah, I think it definitely. I'm hoping that we get to see a lot more of that, and I think maybe the hipsters finally got something right, drinking PBR that kind of took that can stigma away, a little bit.
Right.
And it's just, I think it's great for the freshness factor alone. I've had Two Hearted side by side, similar dates, similar age, but you could taste the difference. I'm a big proponent of canned craft beer. I wrote a blog piece about it. Love the growler too. It's a great idea. Let's take a can and a growler and combine them.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
But cans are. There's some brewers that are just never going to go, but slowly but surely more and more are. I just saw something on the internet today that Odell is going to start doing.
Nice.
A couple of their big beers in cans.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, the technology I think is catching up. With all the mobile canning lines and things like that. So
that's another benefit is for brand new breweries. They don't have money to install a packaging line, but they can rent out a mobile canning line and have cans on the store shelves much easier.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know when we had Hetty Topper at our
MCBO,
that he insisted that not only we crack it, just that everybody had to crack it at the same time, and then he said, do not pour it into a glass. And he was that adamant about it.
Yeah.
And I have to say that I like to look at my beer at least. But,
now Hetty out of a can is good, and shotgunning Hetty's not bad either.
Wow.
I have done that.
Really?
I have done that.
You are a wild man.
I've got video to prove it.
Oh, but the freshness factor,
so good.
God bless. I mean, that needs to be a perfume or cologne in itself. Although maybe he was planning on that anyways. But yeah, and it's also another factor I think which is really great about canning is that, for those smaller breweries that may have a really tiny tap room with limited hours, being able to get those cans out into the grocery stores, is going to help drive the people in, especially, if it may not be easy to get to, or if you're in competition with other, tap rooms that, and breweries, that have been around for a while. And it's really nice to now go to a grocery store and just see such a great selection, or your liquor store, or, beer store kind of thing.
And for local breweries that really can't afford yet to get like a canning line, I know there are mobile canning units that are going around and contracting with people.
I think Jackalope uses one. I think
absolutely. I think it's Toucan or something like that out of out of Chattanooga.
Could be.
They're a local mobile canner.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's plenty others, around the U.S. Yay.
Well, as we think about the other beers that were a little bit more nuanced with all these incredible flavors, one that I really I still have a little bit of it here because I just can only sip just a taste at a time. But it's as when we've been talking about it already, the habanero, and just as Dave said, the thing that is incredibly different about this than a lot of your pepper beers is that it doesn't have that vegetable aspect to it. You don't get that. So I thought that this would be a really good beer. I'm going to try to maybe keep a 6-pack of this on hand for cooking. I will like for my chili. I like to do different kinds of chilies, and it would really be good foundational stuff for like my Montezuma's Revenge chili or something like that. Yeah. But I was also thinking, here in the Nashville area, we really, really like, what is like the sort of the quintessential Nashville fast food, although it's not, if it's really good, it's not that fast, is the hot fish. So I'm thinking, why not do like a beer batter with this stuff.
Oh, wow.
On top of, the hot fish. We have hot chicken, but hot fish.
Yeah, right.
So I'm going to try that,
That's
actually.
Cool.
Yeah, that might be good.
Tasty.
I think a lot of people are getting more and more into cooking with beer. I know I mostly use it. It's a good meat tenderizer. So, like if I'm going to marinate something overnight or something, a lot of times I'll soak it in a pretty good beer. Or sometimes even when I'm doing the smoker, instead of just keeping water in there to steam and moisturize, I'll use, like people make beer can chicken, that kind of stuff.
Pretty cool. Some good discussion. All right. Well, we're going to take a brief break and check in with our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. That's been some good discussion so far, and I think I would like to open the table now and talk about the diversity of Ballast Point and other breweries as of late is all of these like crazy flavor combinations. It used to be that you go to a tap room and you have a pale ale, you have an IPA, you have a porter, and you have a stout. Now there's just all this plethora of flavors that are, coming into different styles. What do you guys think about it?
Well, I mean, so we were talking, we had 6 different Ballast Point beers today, right? We didn't even scratch the surface of what they do. And a lot of them are riffs on the Sculpin, the grapefruit and the habanero, and they do the lime and lemon, ghost chili, coffee, a million different kinds of Sculpin and all that. But they still have, red ales and browns and different things that they do. And so you can even like pull back and say, we're not even going to talk about sours or Brett beers, funk beers. But even just beers that use, Saccharomyces, you're still looking at tons of different flavors, even, straight styles, but then you start adding in spices and different things. It's beer is an extremely broad and complex market these days.
Yeah, and one question that always comes to mind for me when we're looking at these specialty kinds of beers that are, you might say in the spice vegetal kind of category is, is this a fad or is it a trend? That is, a fad comes and goes. A trend, you can sustain it over time because there's an actual market out there long term that can support it. So I'm starting to see that maybe this is a trend and not just a fad. I know, like 5 years ago and 10 years ago, when we would compete and maybe be considered for like a pro-am, if you were in a pro-am final, that a lot of times, not a lot of times, all the time, if you were in a final and your beer was a vegetal or even a fruit beer, the brewery, and I won't say who, but they would say to us, no way.
You're done.
There's no way that we're going to scale this up to the kind of volume that would be required for us to then turn around and try to sell it to a public.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's different now, So
I think so many people are doing it, and I know that, like at the Pro-Am at GABF last year, there was a passion fruit Goza that was there. I think there were a couple beers with like blackberries and different things. So yeah, I mean it's becoming people are getting a lot more creative with it these days.
Yep.
Now, do you think that there's a point where it would be too much flavor, or going to an extreme? Like, for instance, the Indra, is that too much? Is that just enough?
I thought the Indra was too much for me.
Yeah.
And when I first smelled it, I thought it smelled like my mother's spice cabinet. It's like they took a little bit of everything, and it's a solid beer. I can't find any fault in it. It's a lot of flavor in there.
You can't focus on any one thing because there's every time you turn around, there's something new touching your palate.
Pepper, coconut, curry, and more. And I'm not sure if I can put my finger on any one thing. And I could see where this would be a beer for some people sometime, but I couldn't see myself drinking a full bomber of this.
Yeah, me either. I see it as being a very good pairing beer, and I know that, most of the time when I come home, sometimes my palate just doesn't want to work all that hard.
Yeah,
I hear you. I'm with you. I love the lawnmower beer after work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think also there are some things that people try and throw it out there, but not everything should be an addition to a beer. There's like some stuff. I've had a good cucumber saison, but one.
Trinity.
Only one. I've had a couple others that it didn't work. You would think watermelon would be a great addition to beer. It's okay in the right circumstance, but you've got to do it right. A lot of these flavors, just because it tastes great when you're eating it, the chemical processes that things go through fermentation, and when you're combining them with the flavors of a beer, they don't always come out the way you want. I know I had a beer that I made where I used rosemary instead of hops, and it probably would have been pretty good, except that I used way too much rosemary, so you get like a big smack in the face of rosemary. Now, it was great as a marinade. You put some pork chops in that and let them soak overnight and then cook them. You got something going on, but as far as drinking, no way.
Yeah, I know, and like holiday beers, that are supposed to be spiced, and so I'm always doing something new, every like late October, mid-November for, like Christmas and New Year's. And one year I did my Grand Cru with a Star Anise, and that was just awful. Just because I use too much. And so I think the adage less is more really applies to spiced beers. Yeah. You just want a little bit in the background kind of prodding you forward, but if it's like in your face, it's too much.
Yeah, it's like, are you having some spice in your beer, or are you having some beer in your spice?
Yeah.
Well, so there's a fine line between, what is acceptable onto the palate and what is overwhelming on the palate. But okay, so back to the Indra. I wonder if here locally, Cool Springs Brewery has been making some beers to go with a new Indian restaurant that has recently opened up. And the moment that I smelled this beer, I was like instantly thinking, oh my gosh, this belongs at that restaurant. I don't know that it would be a good bottled beer, but to go with a particular restaurant. What do you guys, or how do you guys feel about this? Maybe a new relationship with breweries and restaurants, and maybe making special batches just solely for a restaurant and a particular flight of food.
Yeah, I think that. Especially the whole local concept of craft beer, which I'm hoping we're getting more and more kind of back to that. That is that you could actually have even a brew pub that would be working in collaboration with a local restaurant. So it wouldn't even have to be a big operation.
I know Jeppe at Evil Twin has a house beer that he makes for the Birdcage, or there's a restaurant in Chicago, the Aviary.
The Aviary.
Right.
Sorry, a Birdcage. Well,
same thing.
Similar.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a movie?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Stop. So I think it's a natural kind of collaboration between chefs and brewers, because usually they're both thinking about flavor and presentation and how this will pair with this. So it's a pretty it's like a natural happening.
And here in Nashville, there's a new restaurant called Butchertown Hall, and a lot of local breweries are brewing beer just for Butchertown that they're not putting out in the market. You can't get it at the tap room. You can't get it anywhere else. and they've considered the Butcher Town Hall menu, working with the chef there. And there's several breweries in town making beer exclusively, and I think that's cool. I would like to see more of that in the city and in other cities. There's so many great chefs and great restaurants all over this country, and local beer could be tied right to it.
Yeah, and I think that's a natural progression of things, is that, as we get more crafty in our beer and more niche-y in the type of breweries that are opening up, that they can cater to these, growing foodies that are around, because I think it's that same type of person that is attracted to a craft beer that's also attracted to the new restaurants that are opening up, and more of that the trendy foodiness that goes along with not only the craft beer revolution and the food industry, but even like in terms of cocktails, those old school craft cocktails are coming out too, whereas before I think an old-fashioned was probably one of the only things you can get on a menu, and now you can go to a restaurant and have a plethora of, interesting and unique flavors. So, that's pretty cool.
And I think, beer does two different things as you're pairing it with food. It either accentuates the flavor in the food, like a smoked beer, for instance, is really good with a wood-fired pizza. It brings out, just the smoke that's already in the oven. Yeah. And then, though, you've got beers that are just palate cleansers. That is, they're not complementing the food. They're just kind of like wiping the slate clean so you can eat something different.
Sure.
So I think it plays multiple roles.
Sure. Well, there are times when you don't really want to think about pairing, this with that flavor. Like, if you're just going out to watch a game, and have some wings or something, you probably just want a good session beer, like a nice lager or something that you can just drink a lot of. You're not stopping to, let me do some tasting notes on this while I'm having it. You're not really trying to think about it. Kind of like you said, sometimes your palate doesn't want to work that hard. So sometimes you just want a beer that is just there to wash down the food. It doesn't always have to, go with it or whatever,
But on the other end of the spectrum, I think it is the foodie movement that's driving the creativity and the acceptance of beer. I think there's a lot of people out there that would not consider themselves beer drinkers, but they've discovered that there's such a wide variety of beer that goes well with so many foods. Yeah. And in many ways, beer is more versatile than wine.
Absolutely.
Totally.
So when you start pairing people who are not traditional beer drinkers and might have considered themselves wine snobs are now realizing there's a whole world of flavors out there that will help with the food that I'm eating, no matter what kind it is.
It's probably good that Mike is not in here on this particular episode talking about that. But I think beer infinitely has infinite more possibilities, flavor combinations, varietals, things like that. I mean, you're never going to taste like a habanero Sauvignon Blanc or something like that. You never. That's just not going to happen.
That's a challenge to a winery.
Yeah. So I'm throwing it out there. The first vineyard that can come back with that, prove me wrong. But I do think that, and I think that a lot of times people are more open-minded about beer than they are wine, because you have certain expectations about these wines, that they should taste like this and they should have this profile and all this. Beer, especially American craft beer, it's pretty much game on with whatever you want to do.
Yep.
Sure. And it being baseball season, and of course hockey season is right around the corner. What is cool, as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about how, like, Schlafly, for instance, kind of pushed their way into the baseball fields, and so now at Cardinals Stadium you can get a variety of beer, so it's not just the plain old traditional brands who shall remain nameless, that you could only find at a baseball game or a hockey game, for that matter. I mean, you can go to any city now and any major sporting event, and now you have a plethora, and not just like all of these food options, but beer options too. And I think that's really cool because, we've come a long way from what we used to be.
Yeah, I think it's a reflection of the times that people are not going to spend necessarily, $30 minimum on a hockey ticket, and then $20 on food, and then pay $8 for a just a standard macro beer. A lot of people will, but when you could pay a couple more bucks and get a huge, like Goose Island or Yazoo or something with a little more flavor, that will kind of complement your experience a little bit better.
Yeah.
I know the Predators have been really open to local craft beer. Not only did they hold a beer festival, but they held a contest. And the local brewery that won gets to sell their beer on the main level, on the main concourse.
No way.
Yep.
Jackalope won the first year and the third year, and Black Abbey won the second. And so they made a really big deal about it. And
that's really
about
cool.
6 games, home games, they get to be there, and brewery representatives are there shaking hands and meeting people.
Well, that's
so
huge.
It's
Yeah,
a
no,
great
it is.
way
It
for...
is.
Predators games, that it's like one of those destination events too, especially
It
like
is.
when the Blackhawks, who I hate because they're cheaters, when they come into town, the city is mobbed by horrible
Goons?
drunken thug goons, which I guess we're banned in
Excuse
Chicago
you?
now.
Excuse you? I think you're banned from a certain house too.
I've got a key. But so that's a whole other bunch of people that get the chance to try a beer when they're in town, and then they go home and they talk about it like, wow, I went down to Nashville and had a Black Abbey, POTUS number 44 or whatever, and they're like, dude, I wish I could get this in Chicago. So that kind of thing, or Anaheim, or wherever they're coming in from out of town to see the game. So you're tying that experience and opening yourself up to beer nerds from everywhere.
Yeah, and it's nice to be able to compete. I mean, granted, I am a Chicago fan. I do admit that.
Boo.
But what's nice... Okay, but getting on this little tangent here about hockey, with the upcoming All-Star game coming here to Nashville this year, you're going to get fans from all over. And, I'm sorry, but hockey fans are beer fans too. I'm sure, to a degree. And just being able to have craft breweries at in every city, for major sporting events is really cool. And it just, I think it helps enhance the experience. Anyways. Okay, well, I think there was some pretty good discussion. What do you guys think?
Good times.
Yeah.
Neat.
Pour me another.
Or 2. All right, well, we hope you've enjoyed this episode and all of our tangents today. And you can catch all of our episodes online, as well as on Soundcloud, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, PRX, and Spreaker, our native media host. YouTunes and our own Android app are the easiest ways to enjoy the show on your phone. Just search for Sip Suds Smokes on iTunes or in the Google Play Store. We love your feedback, and you can reach us online at info@sipsudsmokes.com. Our daily tasting notes flow out on Twitter every day at SipSudsSmoke, and our Facebook page is always buzzing with lots of news. Do us a favor and take the time to rate this episode. If you like listening to us online, that's a big help to us, and we get to see your feedback as well. So, this is good old gal Julieanna.
Hey, this is good old boy Dave saying, stuff.
And Reverend Mark bidding you good afternoon.
And this is good old boy Kendall saying always drink good beer.
And Kendall, speaking of which, where can we reach you, Mr. Blogger?
Yeah, my wife and I do a beer blog, beermakes3.com, and we share the good news of beer and just want to try to educate and help people understand it a little bit better.
Very cool. Well, on behalf of everyone, this is good old gal Julieanna, and we just ask you to keep on sipping and see us on the next episode.
Long ho!
This has been a One Tan Hand production of Sips, Suds, and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see you all next time.